In this video, we'll talk a little bit about strategy. But before we talk about creating strategy, we have to define strategy. And why do you think it's important to define strategy? Because for some of you, it might seem that the word strategy is self-explanatory, but that is not the case. In the corporate setting, strategy is one of the most overused words. People use the word strategy a lot. So it's important that we first define what strategy is. Now, strategy is how an organization brings together all of its resources to achieve its vision. So in an organization, there are so many different departments, and there are also so many different resources the organization has. And the organization has to bring together all of these different resources, all of these different departments to achieve its vision. Which means an organization needs to have a vision. Without a vision, the organization is not headed in any direction. You need a vision for direction. So how does an organization achieve its vision is what is called strategy. And can an organization achieve its vision easily? Maybe some can, but most cannot. Because there is competition. There is competition from your peers or rivals, as we call them. When there is competition, you have to have competitive differentiation, which means you will have to have something, or you will have to do something that is different from your competitors, that is helping you achieve your vision. So if everybody is doing the same thing, if you are doing the same thing as your competitors, then there is no differentiation. I'm not saying that all businesses need competitive differentiation. There could be businesses that don't need competitive differentiation. Right outside a hospital, you will see that there are medical shops. There might be scores of medical shops right outside a hospital, and all of them sell more or less the same kind of medicine. There might not be the need for competitive differentiation there, because all the medical stores sell the same kind of medicines and they cannot differentiate competitively. They might be able to provide discounts to some extent, but that might not be sustainable. So competitive differentiation is not always possible in all businesses. It's always not necessary in all businesses, especially when the demand is huge. Outside a huge hospital, there is always constant demand for medicines. So people always come to these medical stores to purchase medicines. There is always demand, which means all of the shops outside the medical stores, they will continue to get business. Outside a huge university, if you have a couple of stationery shops, you will see that there is always business there. Students would want papers, notebooks, pens, erasers, everything. Because it's a huge university and there are a lot of students and there is a lot of demand. So a competitive differentiation per se is not always required for all businesses. But it is not the case with all businesses. Most businesses need competitive differentiation. And strategy is how you create competitive differentiation, right? So it is how you create competitive differentiation. So that is the definition of strategy. So earlier in the video, we said that strategy is how you achieve your vision. Now I want to add one more element to that definition, and I want to say that strategy is how you achieve vision by gaining competitive advantage. So you have a vision and you achieve competitive advantage and you reach that vision, and that process of reaching that vision through the creation of competitive advantage, that's called strategy. Now, what it implies is also that there needs to be a vision. You cannot operate without a vision. A vision is needed for direction. Without vision, you're just shooting in the dark. you're going in circles. You wouldn't know where you're going. So, a vision is important for any organization. And in order to achieve a vision, you need strategy. So, what is a vision? A vision is your aspiration for the organization. Right? It is what you want to be in a certain number of years. Right? That's your vision. What do you want to be in a certain number of years? And there is also mission. What is mission? Mission is what you need to do. So your vision could be become the leading market player in a certain industry in 5 years. That could be a vision. Become the biggest producer of a certain good. That could be a vision. What's a mission? Mission is provide exceptional customer service every day. That could be a mission. These are just examples, right? If you just Google vision and mission examples, you will see the visions and missions of all the great companies in the world. But what you need to understand is that vision is what you want to be. It's your aspiration, it's your dream for the organization. And vision and mission is what you have to do, right? And mission sets the culture of the organization, right? Vision is the aspiration. Mission tells us what to do every day. And what you have to do every day in the organization, that defines your culture. So once you have defined the vision and the mission, you have to create what is called as values. The interesting thing about values is that when we create values and when we talk about values, most people think that values is about how the companies treat people. But that is not always the case. That is not why values were created. Of course, it might give you an idea about how companies treat their people. It might give you an idea about the culture of the company. But values are the behavior that needs to be demonstrated for the company to be aligned with the mission so that they can achieve the vision. Right? So I'll probably repeat this. Values is the behavior that employees in the company or the company needs to demonstrate so that they're aligned with the vision. And I said earlier that providing exceptional customer service every day could be the example of a mission. And in order to provide customer experience, exceptional customer experience, what is it that you need to do? What is the behavior that you need to demonstrate? That is values. So companies' values are defined by mission, and through the combination of all of this, you achieve the vision. So the first step is to define a vision. In strategy formulation, the first step is to define a vision, because without a vision, you don't know where to go. You don't know what kind of strategy you need to formulate. You need to know where to go. If you have a car, if you have a bike, you need a destination to reach the destination. If you don't have a destination, you would not know where to go. Maybe you will drive, maybe you will go, maybe you will end up driving in circles, maybe you might end up accidentally being successful. You won't end up being intentionally successful. So defining vision is the first step to strategy formulation. And then you have the mission and the values and all of that. And earlier in the video, I also talked about what strategy is. It's about how all these different departments are brought together, all the different resources are brought together for the company to gain competitive advantage, and by gaining competitive advantage, ultimately reach the vision. So what can be a competitive advantage? What is possibly a competitive advantage for a company? Anything could be a competitive advantage. It's impossible to really zero in and say that these are the competitive advantages of a company. Depending on the industry, the business, the location, depending on all of these factors, pretty much anything can be the competitive differentiator for a company. For one company, the people might be the competitive differentiator. Right? I have exceptionally talented people that my competitors don't have. Maybe I'm hiring people and providing them specialized training that my competitors cannot provide, and that could be an advantage for me. I can have patents and trademarks in my name. I might have done a lot of innovation, and through innovation, I would have developed things that I have patented, and that cannot be reused by another company. That could be a competitive advantage. My location could be a competitive advantage. I am located in a place where my competitors are not located. That gives me access to certain customers. That gives me access to certain type of employees, certain skill sets. That gives me access to certain cultures. All of this can be competitive advantages. I might have certain processes that my competitors cannot replicate. That could be a competitive advantage. So a company can have anything as a competitive advantage. But the most important thing when it comes to a competitive advantage is that usually the toughest competitive advantages of companies are not just one item, right? If I say that talent is my biggest competitive advantage, it's not a competitive advantage that's difficult for my competitors to figure out, right? It's easy to figure out that, hey, this company has good talent. It has highly skilled employees. And that is why they're having an advantage over us. So competitors can figure that out. And when competitors figure that out, they will strive to achieve the same competitive advantage that you are having. If you are positioned at a certain location, and because of that you are having access to certain resources, certain customers, certain skill sets, it's easy for your competitors to figure out what your competitive advantage is, and they will try to replicate that. So one item or one system as such can be a competitive advantage, but it's not a difficult competitive advantage for your competitors to crack. So the most complex competitive advantages are the ones that are most difficult for the competitors to crack. And how can your competitive advantage be complex? It can be complex when it's not just one thing, but a combination of things, right? It could be a combination of my location, plus my talent, plus my processes, plus my technology, or any of these combinations, right? So when a company has unique combinations that their competitors cannot replicate or cannot figure out, then the company has a distinctive competitive advantage. And when you have distinct competitive advantage, then what you do cannot be easily replicated by your competitors. That gives you the advantage, that helps you reach your vision effectively.